What is up, YouTube? We are out in the front yard right now. Not walking all the way out of the yard, but spent all day yesterday, well, after work all day. Yeah, let's go out there. Working on this thing. My buddies over at Lucky Knuckles, Matt, gave me a hand doing all the suspension stuff because that's the least favorite part that I have in terms of car things, and Ford suspension on the front end kind of sucks. So we got these gigantic rears on here to try and get close to the GT50 Goodyears that we had on there in the vintage trim. Obviously those looked a little bit cooler being all squared off and racy. And then these are the OG Cooper Cobras. They're 14s, they're chopping, they're not in good shape, but we'll be replacing these. I'm just hesitant because they are 14-inch wheels, and I don't know if I want to buy a set of 14s. But on the front end, we ended up doing upper ball joints on both. The control arms on the bottom are new. I did that last time. And then have been just slowly messing around with some more of the suspension stuff. The lower control arms completely replaced with new ball joints. I did the idler arm. Pitman arm was okay. Linkages basically just need a sincere adjustment at this juncture. And then while we were at it, we ended up putting in new springs. Now, springs and shocks too. So we did upper control arm, shocks, springs. We're essentially at a brand new front end minus the actual hard linkage components, which are in pretty good shape. The tie rod ends and all the adjusters, kind of is what it is. But when I put the new springs in, they are the V8 ones, so they're definitely stiffer. Sits a lot more level now. If you look sideways, I mean, it's tall, it's jacked up for sure, but that front end used to squat. And I didn't finish this till about, I think I left his shop around 9:30 last night. So when I left, it was dark, headlights are on. Normally, I can only see the reflection off the road of the headlights because it was so pitched down. Well, I was sitting level. I could actually see for the first time ever since I've owned that car and had it assembled in the current trim. So we raised the front end at least 2 inches by putting those springs in. Aesthetically, I think I lose a little bit of that low tucked big rake stance where it was sitting like this before. However, it is much more drivable and steers a lot better. It's stiff on the bumps, let me tell you. It is way stiffer, so that's kind of unfortunate. I kind of like the softness that it had going over things, but should be a lot better. I got to get the alignment done, and I really, really need new tires. Tires are expensive. Winter's almost here. I don't think that's going to happen this year. As long as they hold air for the next little bit, we should be all right. Then, Evo Sporty, we're kind of exactly where we left off in the last video that should have come out, which is the primary side. So if we come over here, primary's all buttoned up, clutch is hooked up and working, and now we're down to the small little final details. I'm not spending a lot of time out here because it has been a very busy week at the shop. Been staying up way too late, and even last night. Didn't get home till about 10, which is way late for me. Then edited videos for an hour, and 11 o'clock's not bad. I don't mind wrenching late, but when I do all of that and then wake up at 5 in the morning every day, it's kind of a pain in the ass. So I'm feeling that today. I'm not as young as I used to be. So all we're gonna do today on the Sporty is pretty basic things. I am going to pull the drive chain off because this cover is just floating on here right now. We're gonna pull the drive chain off so that's free spinning. I'm gonna try and click it back into neutral. I filled the tank already on the oil tank. I'm gonna pull the drain plug, well, not drain plug, the switch, the oil pressure switch right there. We're gonna yank that out of there. I'm gonna yank the plugs out, and we're gonna crank this thing over until this starts spraying oil, because I don't wanna take any chances on round 2 of this motor going back together with oil pressure issues. So essentially, if the oil filter's off, you can access this or see this a lot better. You have your oil filter housing up top. I got a brand new filter to go on here, and then we have our oil pressure or oil light switch. That'll come out, and we will basically crank this over. I'm gonna put the filter back on, but crank this over with this out until oil starts coming up there. Once I get oil spraying out of there, I know I have oil pressure. And this is the test I did last time, and it worked, but we caught it too late. So let me get you guys set up. We'll just pop that fitting out and we'll get this thing ready to crank over. It will not fire, nothing, none of the ignition is hooked up, none of the carbs hooked up, but just crank it over and build up some oil pressure. Kind of a specialty tool. This here is a oil filter sensor socket. Don't expect everybody to have one, but if you're working on one of these, they're not that expensive and they come in handy. So we'll try and get this on here. It probably helps if we're loosening, huh? So it's like an 1/8 inch MPT thread here. And since we don't have any dummy lights or anything along those lines, this should just come out all the way. Once it's loose, you're fine. They're not in there all that tight, but it is kind of covered in oil right now. But that's all right. So drop this out. Come on. There she goes. And we got a little bit of oil dripping out of there already. I don't know if that'll show up. That's just old residue. Now, I'll come over here. I did mess with the shifter yesterday, so I think I clicked it into gear on accident. Yep. So I gotta grab the shifter out of the box. I didn't take the pinch bolt out, so it just kind of dangles there. We'll spline this on the end. We're stuck in first. So 1/2 click up should be neutral. Yep. I'll pull the chain out. I'm only doing that because I don't want, if I tried cranking this now, it would wrap the chain and probably, depending how hard it grabbed, it would shoot up and crack your sprocket cover. So if the chain's fully connected, you don't have to worry about it if you keep the rear wheel off the bench like it is now. But I don't have that chain fully set up and I don't want to take any chances. So now everything is wired to crank over. No ignition, obviously, and no carb, so it cannot fire. But if we click the key on and just give it a quick love tap. My battery dead? Would have been nice to test that, huh? All right, well, I guess I'm gonna be figuring out why this thing's not cranking over. Cool. Well, that was a quick fix. Apparently your battery terminals actually need to be tight in order for that to work. So all I did was tighten down this hodgepodge mess of hot lead wires and tighten down the ground, which was honestly only a 1/4 thread in. I think I just rested them on there to check for lights. But now, if we look at the motor here, we're gonna crank it over. Listen to that compression. I got my finger over the plug here, but put a finger over the plug. Listen to this thing. Sounds great. Now, that doesn't even matter. I knew that sounded good just because it was so hard to rotate over by hand, but that was maybe 3-4 seconds of cranking. I don't usually like doing it this way when I can avoid it because as you're cranking it over, there's no oil going into the cylinders yet. It's that initial, but take a look on the bench. Let me clear some crap out of the way here. We're extra organized and clean. Look at this little puddle. Okay, we'll wipe this away. Crankety crank, let's see what happens. There's some drips coming, so we're getting there. There she goes. That's what we were waiting for. See the geyser that just came out here? This is coming up through the oil filter housing. Let me grab a pig mat, but that's what we were waiting for. When I leave the oil filter off, I get a much quicker view there too, so crank this over 2 or 3 more times. That is exactly what I want to see. I know I'm making a big old giant mess, but that's what you want. Lots of oil coming through. It's also going to kind of purge the rest of those lines that I had sitting there. So that means we got oil pressure. So I'm going to pop this back in. Then I'll throw the, I'm going to pre-fill the oil filter and throw that back on. I think we're in pretty good shape. So quick little update on this dealio. I just don't have the energy tonight to keep messing with this. We're close, but I got a really long weekend ahead of me, so I'm trying to rest up a little bit. Music thing tomorrow night. So I'll be out way too late, and then shop Saturday, boat things on Saturday for the last hoorah of the season. Then we'll be back jamming on this thing full steam ahead because, well, that's the other kicker. Even if I got this done and running and riding down the road, he's out of town and won't be picking it up, and I want this out of my garage. So I'll have this done hopefully by the time he gets back. So this will probably be my Sunday project, get this fired up and hopefully take it around the neighborhood. We'll see. Let me start throwing the rest of this stuff back on. Cranked it over, got the pressure sender back in. I don't have the oil light hooked up, but if I need to rig it up, I do have a terminal here if I want to do that. Now, hopefully this showed up on camera. I don't know what you saw in that little time-lapse bit, but got the filter pre-loaded and lubed up here. Pre-filled. It's probably going to spill a little when I go to put this on, but that's okay. As long as we get some in there, I don't want it trying to fill the filter and pressurize at the same time. Look at that, not even a big mess. So we'll seat this on here. Brand new filter, which is great. I think I left my oil filter wrenches at the shop. And the strap wrench is kind of a pain in here, but that'll be good enough for now. If I need to snug that up a little bit more, that's fine too. But it's cranking over. We're getting oil pressure up to here. When we actually fire this up initially, I'll have the cap off on the oil tank and make sure that it's returning proper as well. Not taking chances. I'm going to be overly anal about going through all of this. So I think that's pretty much it for now. I know I kind of want to stay out here, but I know anything that I do now is going to get me closer to trying to fire this up and rush it tonight, and that's where I'm going to mess things up like I did on the cylinders when I put the cylinders in backwards because I was too tired to actually think proper. Oh well, we're going to call it for tonight. Come out here with a fresh head Sunday. Ideally, we'll have this thing at least fired up, potentially running and driving on Sunday. Weather permitting, because it's been monsooning out here. So that'll end this one. Stay tuned. I know it's kind of a goofy video of not that much work getting done, but we have oil pressure. That's that was the bigger concern. And the Falcon's fixed. Not that that matters, but that's going to be going to the track in about 2 weeks. So trying to get all the bugs worked out on that to get that ready to get out before it gets too cold. And, you know, calendar racing season is drastically dying down, so all the events are kind of ending, but they're doing the fun day, Sunday fun day, Saturday, Sunday non-event ones. So I'll try and get up there early in the morning, get a bunch of passes in, see kind of where we're at. 15-0 last time. Hopefully it's faster than that after all the time, effort, money, and headache invested. We'll see. We'll catch you guys on the next one.